Morning, all. All right, so June 20th. It's hot outside and it's windy too. That's a horrible combination. June 20th. Happy Sunday and all that wonderful stuff for everybody watching, wherever you may be watching around the globe. Tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. Boy, does this game have a lot of intrigue or what? So Montreal's up 2-1, and Dominic Ducharme, who is not showing any kind of symptoms at this point but has tested positive, is out for probably 10 days. Likelihood is 10 days, right? And he said he isn't sure where he got it. He obeyed all the protocols on the road. And yeah, so he's out for 10 days. But Luke Richardson did a great job. So there you go. And it's a well-oiled machine in Montreal. And he has faith that they'll still be playing when he comes off the list 10 days from now. Now, the other interesting thing is on the Vegas side, there's still no Chandler Stevenson. Not at the morning skate. He's not playing tonight. They haven't officially announced it, but I just can't see it. That'd be gamesmanship on a level that I don't see the point in that. And Leonard was in the starting crease, and when Peter DeBoer was asked about it, he said, "Yeah, there's no way I'm going to answer that." So, is Leonard starting tonight? Now, I will say this. Generally, now I remember the 7-1 game against Colorado where he was the sacrificial lamb, but generally Vegas scores more goals when he's in net. Leonard's stats during the season were not as good as Fleury's, agreed, but their win-loss record was really good with Leonard in net. So we'll see. We'll see whether or not Leonard actually starts tonight, but that would be fascinating if it was Leonard against Price. As a Robin Leonard fan, I'd be interested to see how he does. But again, it'll be interesting to see what Vegas does with their goaltending tonight. Because again, do you have a short leash then on Leonard? Like, let's say it's the first period, Montreal goes out to an early 2-0 lead. Do you go right back to Fleury, or do you say no? We're gonna have Leonard in there for the whole game. It'll be interesting. And then if they did lose that game, and if Leonard didn't have a very good game, what kind of reception would Peter DeBoer get when they go back to Vegas for the next game? So tune in tonight. That could be quite the game. Jacob Slavin wins the Lady Byng. I'm going to talk about it. I've got another board behind this one. I'm going to talk about it during this video. We're going to have a little chat about the Lady Byng trophy because it broke Damien Cox. And I'm going to talk about the Lady Byng trophy, one that I did a video on about 3 years ago. I reposted it on Twitter. I made the video about 3 years ago, so I'm not going to regurgitate all that or anything, and I don't need to do a whole video on the Lady Byng. But Slavin winning the trophy, I get it. I do. And so we'll talk about it. OEL's contract is apparently on the trading block again. And I put the contract because when people hear Oliver Ekman-Larsson's on the trade block, they go, well, no, Ekman-Larsson doesn't want to leave. Yeah, we know he doesn't want to leave. Last time he wanted to either go to Boston or Vancouver. And that may have been part of the problem Benning had over the offseason was he was trying to bring in off Ekman-Larsson's contract. So you can't afford to do that and bring back other guys. So that whole thing may have played a role in the bad season Vancouver had and some decisions that didn't make any sense to the fan base. So Ekman-Larsson's contract being on the block again doesn't surprise me. We have an expansion draft coming, right? They have to protect him. It's a no movement clause. They may not want to. Also, this is a team that has lost money for years. And this contract is not a great contract and it's not aging well. The problem is, Ekman-Larsson, I didn't think he had a very good year this year either. I thought last year was a better season for him than this season. And I think it makes it so the contract's harder to trade. If I hear anything about Benning making a phone call to Arizona, I have no problem with heading down to Vancouver. I'll walk if I gotta. And have a chat with him and say, look, no. Bad Jim. No. There you go. But, apparently his contract's on the trade block again. This is from Elliot Friedman. And I would not be surprised if it was. Because I think it's one of those contracts that if a team finds a taker for it, I think they'll ship him out. They're going to have to add a sweetener. And they're also going to have Ekman-Larsson on board for this. And that's the tricky part with that whole no movement clause is you have to find somebody willing to take him, and he may not want to go to the place that wants his contract. So yeah, it gets kind of dicey if you're Arizona. However, one interesting thing would be, what if Seattle? What if Ron Francis swoops in and goes, oh, we'll take the Ekman-Larsson contract, sure. Also, we'll take your first round draft pick. What's that? You don't have one? We'll just take next year's then. How's that sound? All right. And the expansion draft, we're probably going to grab another one of your players anyways. I mean, there are rumors already tying potentially Seattle to Dougie Hamilton, right? Well, if you had Hamilton and Oliver Ekman-Larsson on that blue line to start out, might not be too shabby. Again, people will look at the expansion draft and say, hey, they have to get so much money in the expansion draft. They have to hit the cap floor. Yes, but they have money right now, and if they spend it wisely, and if they add some draft picks, right? So look for Ron Francis's name to come up in a lot of these situations. And maybe for teams, for players to say, you know what, if I'm going to pick a team to go to, yeah, sure. I wouldn't mind going to a new team. That might be kind of fun. We'll see. Zach Trotman has announced his retirement. 30 years of age, good depth defenseman, knew his role, played it well. 91 games, 3 goals, 10 assists, 13 points. In his Instagram post, made it sound like he's still going to be around hockey. He's still going to be in the hockey world, just no longer as a player. That he's reached the point where he says, yeah, no, that's it, I'm done. And again, 30 years of age, it can happen early, where a guy says, all right, well, that's the end of the playing career. Let's see what else hockey has in store for me. So all the best to him, really. Larry Brooks is reporting the Hawks may be in on Eichel. So here's the thing. With Jack Eichel, if you're the Buffalo Sabres, you have to get a minimum of the following. A first-round draft pick. You have to get either a top-notch center, or you have to get a center prospect who's going to be very good. And probably some other pieces as well. You very likely want to get other pieces as well. The Buffalo Sabres, in Jack Eichel, understand they have a guy who can be a top 10 center in the NHL. And he's been a top 10 center in the NHL because I put him in the top 10 centers in the NHL a couple of times, and I didn't see a lot of complaining about me having him in the top 10 centers. He had a poor year this year. Yes, injury played a role, absolutely. And the fact that he's still a Sabre may be hurting his production at this point. So if he went to, say, Chicago, and if he's playing with Patrick Kane, those numbers are going to go up. Numbers are going to go up a lot. So you just put him on a line with DeBrincat and Kane and profit. And that's the thing. The Hawks are likely looking at this like, hey, if we can get Eichel, we could take this this whole rebuild thing we've been doing and just forget it. We've got Eichel now. But it would probably take Kirby Dach. I would think Kirby Dach, probably a first-round draft pick this year. It might involve a first-round pick next year. And again, for people who are going to say, well, that sounds expensive, it's Jack Eichel. He's a really, really good player in the NHL. And I have to say, too, I'm kind of sad that this jersey I picked up from the Buffalo team store when they changed their color scheme. And I was like, well, they must have a sale on the old color scheme. And they did. And the white jerseys in an Adidas, you kind of had to go through the team store. And that's still the case. But the interesting thing is that I thought, well, I'll get Linus Ullmark because of all the names on there. He should be sticking around for a while, and he's a UFA this summer. So, and with everything else going on with Buffalo, I wouldn't be surprised if Ullmark says, yeah, no, I'm going to hit the market. So now I have names on 2 Buffalo jerseys, Eichel and Ullmark, who I thought would be there for a long time. And here we are. But I need to change boards so we can talk about something else. So what set Damien Cox off is that the Lady Byng is awarded to Jacob Slavin. Now, I've seen people saying that if you have a defenseman who's up for the most gentlemanly player in the NHL, he's not a very good defenseman. I kind of think that that's old-fashioned thinking. I understand it. I get it. But he's not even... It is odd to see a defenseman win it, but he's the most recent, obviously, this year. But Brian Campbell won it in 2011, 2012 as well. I don't remember a lot of complaining when Brian Campbell won it either. But anyways, here is the word for word what it is listed as. And again, I use my books. I know there's the internet. I use my books as well to get the wording in here right. So it's awarded to the player combining the highest type of sportsmanship and gentlemanly conduct plus a high standard of playing ability. And it's selected by a vote of hockey writers and broadcasters. And this is going back. Way, way, way back. It was added in the 1924-25 season. Lady Byng, whose real name was Marie Evelyn Morton, very, very well known Canada-wide. Her husband being the Canadian Governor General, who commanded Canadian soldiers at Vimy Ridge in World War One. Was brought into the league a year after the Hart. And when I did research on this about 3 years ago, when I did the other video on, and I did it up at the lake in Idaho, and it's one of those rare outdoor videos. But it was added the year after the Hart, and my complaint about the award through the years was it felt like it was a consolation trophy for the Hart. And I understand that's not exactly what it is, but it kind of felt like it was, where you would see players getting awarded that trophy, and I go, is he really the most gentlemanly player in the entire league? Or is this a matter of, well, we can't give you the Hart because Lemieux's going to win it, so here's the Lady Byng. And so, yeah, the interesting part of this is it says high standard of playing ability. That is so vague, which is so NHL, right? So the argument from Damien Cox has been that, McDavid and Matthews were great all year and they didn't take a lot of penalties. But that's not really what the award's been given out for. I remember when Ryan O'Reilly got it, that year he had one penalty. And, I don't think we can argue that Ryan O'Reilly was the best player in the NHL that year, but most gentlemanly, yes. And I don't think those two things are the same. And I think when we start conflating the Lady Byng with a guy being a 100-point player or being an absolute superstar, I think that's not in the spirit of the trophy, at least from the way she talked about it when she was awarding it. Because originally, Lady Byng herself was the one that gave out the award. Before it was given out by a vote of hockey writers and broadcasters, she would just, here's the winner. And Damien wasn't there to tell her she was wrong. So the first winner was Frank Nybor, who she handed the trophy to. The first two times the trophy's handed out, it went to him. He had 26 games played that year, 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points. And yeah, those totals are not superstar totals, right? 18 penalty minutes as well in 26 games. We'd be raging right now about this guy winning the trophy, right? He had 249 penalty minutes in 349 games. But the game was probably kind of chippy in the 1920s. There was a depression going on. You're coming out of World War I. And I can only assume that hockey sticks, you had to whittle them yourselves. That's my assumption with 1920s, right? So you're probably all angry from whittling your hockey stick. And, then you get some other dingus with their hockey stick breaking yours. Now I got to go whittle, guys. There wasn't equipment managers at that point. You just had one stick. Your stick breaks. And, all right, well, you're without a stick for the rest of the game. This league sucks. So it wasn't that bad. Frank Boucher won the trophy 7 times. 119 penalty minutes for him in 557 games. Not too shabby. And Lady Byng eventually gave him the original trophy. Just take the trophy. Probably tired of giving it to him. Probably just like, you know what? I'll just let you have the trophy. So the one that they hand out now is actually not the original trophy, which won't surprise anybody. But the NHL basically made one, and it's now the Lady Byng Memorial Trophy after her passing, right? So this is its start. This is how it all starts out, right? Where Frank Boucher was the guy who won it almost every year. And Frank Nybor, guys named Frank. I guess it was just she liked guys named Frank and she wanted them to win trophies. Of course, this year Slavin wins it. He had 2 penalty minutes all season. That's 1 penalty in 52 games, and that was a delay of game call. Not a slash. Not a hook. Not a trip. Just think of all of the times where we've seen guys accidentally trip or slash or hook, and it gets called. And Slavin, nothing. Not a penalty. But what's key with Slavin, and this is the reason why I will say yes, him winning the trophy makes perfect sense to me. He is still an excellent defensive defenseman. It's not like he gets 2 penalty minutes and he's a minus 40 because he doesn't check. Or you can look at him and go, well, look at how these guys just go around him. He's very sound positionally, very good player. Him and Pesce are right up there in terms of my favorite tandem blue liners in the league with Pulock and Pelech with the Islanders. So Slavin is excellent. And in 2011, 2012, when Brian Campbell won it, in 82 games, he had 6 penalty minutes. Again, Campbell was a very good defenseman. Recent winners who weren't, superstar players, Yuri Hudler won it in 2014, 2015. So you don't have to be a superstar to win this award. You don't have to be a guy who scores a ton of points to win the award. It's for guys who are, exemplary of sportsmanship and gentlemanly conduct. Yesterday in his acceptance over Zoom, right, where it was Rod Brindamore it was Ron Francis announced it, which is good because he used to be the GM with Carolina before Seattle, right? And Slavin talked about his Christian faith and his beliefs and all that. And that is part of the reason, again, why people around the league who follow Slavin and who watch the Carolina Hurricanes respect the job he does. In that all shows in his on-ice conduct and his off-ice conduct, and it all just paints this picture of just a really nice guy. And that's kind of what the award's supposed to be. So we'll go back to it. Player combining the highest type of sportsmanship and gentlemanly conduct plus a high standard of playing ability. Nowhere in there does it talk about goals. Nowhere in there does it say that you can't win it if you're a defenseman. It doesn't say you can't win it if you're a goaltender. I think there's these ridiculous standards with awards that, that guy can't win it because, well, you can't give it to that guy because, why not? Why can't a goaltender be the most gentlemanly player in the game? There's certainly been goaltenders who've been jerks. Why can't there be goaltenders who are also really nice guys and get rewarded for it? And same with defensemen. Why can't a defenseman be considered the most gentlemanly player in the game? And I don't see any kind of a problem with it. And I really hope the barriers we've seen with some of the awards come down because it's kind of insane. And again, I think part of the issue with Slavin is we had these 4 divisions this year, and you didn't have to watch outside your division. And I know there were people who north of the border may not have been watching teams in the States as much. Also, there may have been people in the West not watching teams in the East because you didn't need to. They weren't in your division. You didn't need to worry about what they were doing. So I genuinely don't think there were as many people watching Slavin this season as otherwise you might have seen. But again, by the standard of the award, he's a good winner. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.